Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Stan had to be seen, so I let him have the first couple seconds. You're welcome. All right. So we'll see how much he chimes in along the way, but I wanted to remind folks that there is another change coming. Specifically, the one that I'm looking at is the mental health change. The schedule on that is slated to be updated, and I wanted to dive into it a little bit as a gentle reminder because it's going to absolutely impact mental health claims positively. So let's jump into it. Hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I truly appreciate it. So 2 years ago, 2 long years ago, actually closer to 2.5 now, the VA did push out some information in a press release regarding these additional changes. Now, we just realized changes with regard to the digestive system. Those are now in place and effective. Things like celiac disease, GERD, that type of stuff, IBS, hemorrhoids, so forth. That is all now in effect. Now, this other rating change proposal is still out there, and it is anticipated. It's got kind of zeros for the date. So, but the month is June. So that's next month, June, as the effective date. June of 2024 is what they have in some of the documentation. That's a super deep dive into. But again, there's 0 zeros, and that's when it says that that's the final date. Is there any guarantee that it's going to happen then? I don't know. But it's good to be prepared and keep our eyes open. There are changes happening. We just realized one. We're going to realize more. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to read through as quickly as I can the press release from the VA 2 years ago regarding these changes. This is also in the Federal Register, but this is more of the snapshot version. And then I'll jump into the Federal Register to talk about mental health specifically a little bit. All right, so with that, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe, share with a friend, all that good stuff. I truly appreciate it. If you want to support the channel and you have the ability to do so in other ways, please consider being a member. It does help support the channel, and I thank you to all you members very much. I do my best to get back to all of your comments, so thank you for that. All right, so let's just jump through this real quick. This is the update from 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. VA proposes updates to disability rating schedules for respiratory, auditory, and mental disorder body systems. Now, I've talked about this months and months and months ago, but start ringing the bell again because next month is when it says the final date is, but there's no actual day. It just says 06/00/2024. There is no 00 as we know, so it's kind of just a plug a date in and a guess of when it's going to go into effect. I don't know. It may not, but we'll see. All right. With that, this came out February 15th of 2022. So again, like I said, this press release is somewhat old, but we're coming up on the finalization date. So jumping in to the news release. In a news release posted that day, VA proposed changes to the VA schedule of rating specifically pertaining to the respiratory, auditory, and mental disorder body systems. 3 different systems. We just did the digestive system. Now they're looking at the mental disorder, respiratory, and auditory. These changes would incorporate medical advancements for treating certain disabilities with modern medical knowledge to more accurately compensate veterans. Look, some things are good, some things are bad. The rating schedule is used to determine the appropriate level of compensation for each service-connected disability based on the severity of the condition as documented by supporting medical evidence. VA is in the process of updating all, yes, all, of the body systems, most of which have already been updated recently. And when I say recently, I mean probably like within the last 5 years or so, 7 years, something like that. VA is updating all the body systems in the rating schedule to reflect this modern evaluative criteria based on advancements in medical terminology, diagnostics, and treatment. So they're just saying why they're doing it. So on February 15th, the VA Benefits Administration will publish a proposed rules in the Federal Register, which they did, and you can search the Federal Register for all that stuff regarding changes to the regulations for the two body systems: respiratory, ear, nose, and throat conditions, and auditory disorders, and mental disorders. Veterans and the public have 60 days, that's gone and went, to provide any sort of comments. Since these are proposed changes, they will not affect evaluations of any veteran currently receiving compensation for an impacted disability. Instead, this is an opportunity for veterans and the public to comment on the proposed changes over the next 60 days. All right, so I'm going to stop right here real quick, and I'm going to dive back into that. This is important information, so stick with me. The one clue that we do have is the VA gave us a 2-month notice on the digestive system taking effect. If big capital IF, if the VA were to do that same thing, well, June's probably out of the question as far as a finalization date for these body systems, because here we are at the tail end of May 2024. So I would venture to say that the VA will do some sort of a news release, press release, whatever, like they did for the digestive system, saying that these new body system changes will be taking effect on X date. And we haven't seen that yet. So let's jump back into it. Some of the proposed changes. Now, here we go. Again, it's important to understand that if you have any of these conditions, that sometimes it's going to be worse when the change takes effect. Therefore, file an intent to file today so you can, circumvent that. Because if your intent to file is in prior to the change, they will utilize the current rating schedule, and then if you move into the new rating schedule time frame as they're working on your claim, then you get the best of both worlds, where they weigh you against each rating schedule and they give you the better of the two. So, all right. They are modernizing the evaluation criteria for sleep apnea by evaluating it based on the symptoms' responsiveness to treatment. If the symptoms are fully treated by a CPAP, you get 0%. So I'm going to skip that and move to the next one. That sucks, by the way, because currently if you have a CPAP, you're at 50%. And in this case, if your treatment is successful with a CPAP, according to the VA, then you get a 0. So the next one is COPD, which is the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And the proposed rule would significantly lower the requirements for a 100% rating. That is good, right? So they're going to make it significantly easier, or I guess not significant, slightly. Sorry. The proposed rules would slightly lower the requirements for the 100% rating. So it will open the door to 100% a little bit easier for COPD. For tinnitus, right, we've talked about this, ringing in the ears, the proposed change would recognize that symptom within the veteran's broader ailment and provide service-connected compensation for tinnitus through the disease to which it is attributed. So, tinnitus is no longer a standalone condition rated at 10%. They will eliminate that and go, you have tinnitus because of this other disease, like Meniere's disease, right? So, they have to find a condition in which your tinnitus is connected to in order to rate it. The proposed rules for mental health, and this is the one that I'm really excited about. The proposed rules for mental health conditions would increase the minimum disability rating from a 0% to a 10%. So now having a mental health condition, you automatically would be at 10 no matter what. The rule would get rid of the dated part of the rating schedule that prevents a veteran from getting 100% rating for mental health conditions if they're able to work. Currently, you have the impairment for both social and economic impairments. So in this case, they would be getting rid of that. And that's really important because a lot of folks, you have no choice. You have to work or be homeless. So that's a tough choice, right? So something important to think about is that they are removing that roadblock to 100%. So in other words, if you're 70 today, because you're working essentially, you are probably going to be able to get to 100%. And that means that the 50% person might be able to jump to 70. And maybe even in some cases, somebody who's rated at 50 might actually bounce to 100. So I'm going to dive into some of how the VA is going to be rating that here in a minute. The VA will ensure veterans get the compensation they need and deserve, especially when it comes to mental disorders. Under the proposed changes, VA plans to use new evaluation criteria to more accurately capture the different domains of impairment caused by mental disabilities and provide more adequate compensation for financial losses experienced by veterans with service-connected mental disorders. Rather than assigning an evaluation based on the number and type of symptoms present, these changes would evaluate mental disorders based on how impactful the disability is across 5 domains of impairment. They're going to be we'll call them 5 little buckets, right? Cognition, interpersonal interactions and relationships, task completion, life activities and navigating environments, and self-care. So those are the 5 domains that they're going to be looking at. Now, what's really great is you could rate high, in other words, have some issues in a couple of those domains and have very few issues in other parts of them, and be rated very high. So you might do self-care fine, right? But your cognition is off. Your interpersonal interactions and relationships are off. But you can focus on a task, right? And you can get that done. But maybe your life activities aren't really that great, or navigating environments, right? So you could have okay self-care and okay task completion, but the other things kind of fall to the wayside. And that's going to warrant a high rating, where before it's like, okay, well, if you're okay here, well, we're not going to rate you 100% because you can make it to work and you're actually earning income and taking care of yourself. So, all right, let's jump into it here on the Federal Register. That's where I'm going now, and I'm going to go through and find the mental health piece to share. So the formula is here. This is how they're going to rate mental health, and it's easy once you understand it, but you know, it is what it is. So it says here, the general rating formula for mental disorders contains 5 domains related to function: cognition, interpersonal interactions and relationships, task completion and life activities, navigating environments, and self-care. And then self-care. Got it there. So the last 2 were split up. So the criteria below describes each domain. So the general rating formula for mental disorders provides criteria for each domain for levels of function ranging from 0 to 4 as appropriate. The highest level of impairment is a score of 4. So impairment, having issues with that specific domain, right? So the highest level of impairment is score 4, signifies total. You're totally impaired by that. And the lowest level of impairment is a score of 0, signifies no difficulties whatsoever. So a level 4, this is how they do it. Remember, you have 5 domains, okay? So let's say you have, for example, a level 2, right? A level 2 in all of them except for the last one, we'll just say, right? So you're a level 2 for your cognition, your interpersonal interactions and relationships, your task completion and life activities, navigating environments, and for self-care, let's say that you're a 0, right? Just for example. So now you have a level 2 in 2 or more domains, okay? You're rated at 70% in this new rating schedule. So a level 2 in 2 or more domains takes you to 70%. So you wouldn't imagine that would be a 70% based on the criteria. So so that means that really for a 70%, your level 2 in 2 or more domains. So really you could be a level 2 in 2 domains and be 0 in the other 3. Okay, So what does it take to get to 100%? Let's start from there and I'll work my way back down. So, or let's work up. So 10%. 10% is the minimum rating if you're just diagnosed and they're service connecting you for a mental disorder. Done. 10%. To get 30% rating, level 1 is what they're calling it, which is a 30% rating. You have to be a level 1 in 2 or more domains. So you have to have slight impairment, because remember, 0 is an option. So you have to have a slight impairment in 2 or more domains. All right, to get to a 50%, you have to have a level 2. We'll call it a moderate impairment in at least one domain. Okay, all the others could be 0. It doesn't matter. For 70%, you have to have a level 3 in one domain or level 2 in 2 domains. So we'll call that, a major issue, maybe not severe, but major issue in one domain, and then you get 70%. Or you have 2 moderate, right, number 2 level, in 2 or more domains. To get to 100%, you need to have a level 4. So that's complete impairment in 1 or more domains, or you can just have major issues in 2 or more domains. So you have a few different options there with regard to getting to 100%. This is huge because remember, 100% for a veteran with a spouse, or a veteran with a dependent and a spouse, so 2 dependents, spouse and a dependent child, is paying out roughly $4,100 per month, $4,100 per month. So this is significant. It's a significant jump for anybody who's less than 100%, and this is going to be the way you get there. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.